Hi there, Santiapolyglot here with a new YouTube video. In today's video we're going to discuss how to use discipline as a tool in language learning. Now take a seat so you can hear me out and enjoy the video. Nothing else to say, just give a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel. Okay guys, so before getting started, before anything else, I'd like to say something really important to you. Nothing new though. So we cannot conceal the fact that we are human beings. That means that we are actually very intelligent beings in general terms, most of the time. So most of the time we were like kind of hardwired or created to do or to learn a good deal of things, either easy or difficult. So in other words, we're quite capable of doing a lot of things. So yeah, once we clarified this specific main aspect of today's main discussion, now we can move on. So how do we use discipline as a tool in language learning, or what's the essential power of discipline towards any situation in our lives? First and foremost, I like to define these three main categories that we are going to discuss later on: motivation, talent, and discipline. What are those? Okay, first of all, I like to define discipline. The essential meaning of discipline is that refers to rule-following behavior. However, as for me, I would say discipline is when you are pretty committed to doing something. You've got like a lot of constancy doing something, even though there's a lack of motivation. Well, for me, discipline is sort of a long-term motivation thing, but we are going to discuss that later, okay? So now we can define motivation. What is that? Okay, for me, it's considered as a reason for embarking upon something with a lot of interest. That's motivation. Motivation doesn't last forever, though. We can clearly see motivation in a relationship, for example, with a partner. So at the very outset, we are very excited with each other. We spend a lot of time together. We do a lot of things together. But once the time passes by, we get more used to interacting with each other and so on. So then experts say real love arrives at this moment. I don't know. So yeah, basically, motivation comes first and then discipline. Now we've got talent. What's talent? Okay, it's the opposite of discipline. So most of the time we were born with a natural skill or aptitude which differentiates us from others in some aspects in life. That is to say that talented people is more likely to do things in an easier way than those who are not talented, and that's all. Okay, perfect. Now we can continue with our main discussion of today's video. There are a lot of people who believe most polyglots are either scammers or fake, or simply they've got like an innate talent in them, and that's not even close to the real truth of this matter. Because, well, yeah, I'm pretty confident that there are actually lots of polyglots that they are fake and they are scammers and so on. Well, that's another story, okay? We can discuss that later if you want to. But on the other hand, there's a lot of misconception between these two terms, discipline and talent. I'll tell you something. We are skeptical of situations that we consider to be incredible. On most occasions, we're kind of justifying ourselves when we think we are not able to do something, therefore we tend not to believe what's impressive for us. I'll give you an example of this. I'm a polyglot, you already know this, but well, I am a polyglot who speaks 6 to 10 languages, and then a person shows up, then this person starts like asking me, how do you do it? How do you just have a brain for it? To maintain like multiple tongues at the same time? What's the secret? I don't know. Although I'll solve their interrogatives, it's practically impossible for them to do the same by doing the same as me. And that's why people are skeptical. Because everyone learns in a different way. And perhaps for others would be impossible to learn or to do something or the same as me just by following my footsteps, you know. That's why I always give you an essential background of how did I do it, how did I achieve it, and not just giving you like the secret of how to achieve it. Thus, if you haven't tried it or done it before, it would be almost impossible for you to do the same or to believe that someone has actually done that before. You have to know yourself better as well. So I'll tell you something on the basis of my personal experience. When I was at school and I was a child, obviously, I wasn't into languages, hence the irony, because I didn't feel pretty comfortable at all when it came to language learning. But I thought all my classmates were kind of brilliant at this matter. Well, I thought. And I wasn't skeptical of them, but of me, because I never believed I could master a language up to a good degree. And yeah, it wasn't because of my intellect or something like that. It was just because I certainly didn't know myself good enough. Once the pandemic started, I began to study in a self-taught way, and I realized I could learn in many different ways than the previous ones that I used to learn with. So apart from that, why did I choose something I was really bad at? Why did I learn languages if I hated them? Okay, that's the key question of today's topic, and the answer is very simple. I chose something I was really bad at in order to challenge me and kind of have a personal growth. So once I started learning them, like the languages, and understanding them, I noticed I actually love them, and yeah, I could know myself better. So I overcome this challenge of mine, and yeah, that's all. So basically, the story that I just told you includes a mixture of skills such as commitment, discipline, dedication, and constancy, and others. Okay, so yeah, let me drink some water. Okay, now moreover, the subject matter of this lecture, as of all my lectures, is the area of foreign language learning. However, what I said and have to say about motivation, talent, and discipline might be of more general interest, might be of much more general application to other fields of study or on other endeavors altogether, such as getting and staying fit by means of a regular exercise regimen, or learn how to play a musical instrument relatively well by systematic daily practice. I don't know. I will certainly make reference to both of these fields and to others throughout. So if you landed here, it's because of your interest in discipline habit formation, and you will stay around and hear me out even if you're not particularly interested in foreign language learning. So now let's begin by considering motivational aspects. What are the rubrics under which we consider motivation? The reasons for which we do something. Why do we do something? Do we do something because people make us do it, or because people expect us to do it, or because we ourselves want to do it? And if we want to choose to do something, do we do it simply because we like it, or because we find it interesting, or because we think it's good for us, or because simply we hope to get something out of it? I don't know. The other aspects are the goals, to the specific things we are trying to get or attain or achieve. Usually this might be if you're trying to get a certain test score, or a certain date by a certain grade, by a certain date, or try to read a certain book, or if you're trying to get a certain number of repetitions, practices, exercises within a certain time limit. I don't know. Motivation will be our energy to do things. And how do we go and do something if we are not full of this energy, of this type of enthusiasm, of this great interest or passion? Well, simply, we just have to struggle by struggling against our will, forcing ourselves and pushing ourselves along. Okay, and that's how we can develop our own motivation or create our own motivation. So looking at language acquisition, there are a lot of types of motivation, such as intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Let's start by explaining intrinsic motivation. What is that supposed to mean? Okay, very simple. It's the simplest to explain because it's something you like it and you do it. That's all. You know, you don't need more. So now we've got the extrinsic motivation. This is a little bit too complicated because, well, to explain it, but I'll try to explain. Okay, for instance, we don't get any choice to learn in terms of our native language or first language, nor do we get any choice in terms of our second language or school language. And that's not very surprising for you. And people are studying languages because languages are most commonly studied during the formal schooling process in high school or college. Often people are told you must do this in order to get that. In other words, you must learn this language if you want to get that specific job you want to get. Okay, so usually it might be that we use it as a tool, like the languages, we use them as a tool, and it's normal. It's probably the most common reason under which for which we undertake the study of foreign languages. And yeah, it's very normal, as I said. And also then we have another type of reason. That's the personal affinity. This reason is very common and is when you have sort of affinity or relationship with the language altogether, so you wish to deepen it, you wish to get to know it better and integrate yourself more with the people and the culture who speak the language on their personal levels. And then we have another one, is the so-called heritage learning. This learning is when you want to learn the language of your ancestors, when you want to learn the language that your ancestors spoke, but your grandparents and your parents didn't pass on to you. That's all. So, well, getting back on track with the personal affinity, when you feel kind of having a personal affinity, it's when you are probably having either personal or romantic relation with somebody from the culture or friends, or let's say you went traveling to the country where this language is spoken, and you would want to go back and integrate yourself more with it. That's all. And the last common reason that we've got to undertake the study of foreign languages is the intellectual interests, and this could be linguistic, cultural, or philosophical. And well, this is a bit too specialized and is the one that caught my attention first. Okay. Now, considering the reasons, the more reasons we've got for studying languages or for doing anything else, the better, the more likely we are to maintain our reasons. So we can certainly have more than one, and our reasons will grow and change, and that's normal for them to do. And that might be that you start out being forced to learn a language, but you might come to like it or see the need for it yourself. Learning foreign languages sometimes could be, for some people, some people give up learning languages and simply they stop learning them. And if you're starting out to learn a language and you would like to increase your chances of success, well, then you should know that lots of my observation and research as well indicates that in order to lead you to greater chances of success, you better have a deep interest in what you're doing, so it's more likely for you to succeed than if you just gotta do it for satisfying someone's necessities. So a lesson that can be learned here right away is that, again, if you're that normal learner that you are learning a language because you have the need to do so, then you can increase your chances of success if you consciously try to set out to develop beyond your mandatory necessities. And try to develop dynamic methods such as, for example, listening to music, watch movies, read books that you like, of your interest. And if you have the chance of the opportunities to go out and go to a restaurant, for example, try to develop a liking for the food, or try to interact with people, get to know people somehow. And also, as I've said before, you can develop a relationship in case you are single. You can develop a relationship with somebody from the culture, and that would be a great way to keep your motivation going. And yeah, last but not least, you could have a deep interest or a deep, let's say, disposition or inclination towards intellectual reasons, and that would be even better for you. Nevertheless, motivation doesn't last forever, as I stated before. In consequence, now we can move on to discipline, considering motivation as well. So we've got the specific goals people set and strive for. The first thing is to be considered is whether our goals are realistic or unrealistic. There's something to be said for aiming extremely high goals, or setting the bar as far or as high as we can, and trying to achieve the greatest things that we think we can. So learning foreign languages is not just like getting physically fit, where if you truly have unrealistic goals, you try to do too much too soon, you can probably hurt yourself or damage your health, by having unrealistic goals. And if we in language learning won't do that to you, but if you do set unrealistic goals, such as, I don't know, for example, try to become perfectly fluent within a certain time limit, within 6 months or a year, for example, what is likely to happen to you is that as you realize you are not gonna make it, you are not gonna make your goals, you will get discouraged and you will lose your motivation altogether. So that's why I always try to recommend that it's better to have realistic goals than unrealistic ones. Okay, so discipline involves a great part of it, and in order to achieve long-term goals, we gotta be very committed to doing what we want to get. That's normal. It's normal to want to set out, to do something new. Maybe when we have a negative experience, and when we are dealing with a past failure, we can attribute it. So it's likely for you to, it's more likely to want to avoid it and not engage in that kind of behavior again. So that might be not a conscious level, but if you had a bad experience before with foreign language learning, and you tried to learn it and you didn't get anywhere and you were very frustrated by it, well, that might coming back to bite you again. So the same happened to me and initially. So as you realize to set out to do it, you might have some real fear or anxiety built up because of that. So when you get locked in a pattern of avoidance, even when you decide to break out, that's not an easy task to do. So that's why I always try to tell you, you have to always follow your very first reasons of why did I start learning this or doing this. You should practice what you preach and make sure you understand what you are talking about by engaging in it yourself. So learning many foreign languages, either with avoidance, fear, or anxiety, you might sit down to actually study. And when you determine to do so, it's probably you will run up against a block, similar to a writer's block. And in case you don't know what that's supposed to mean, It's when you have been brainstorming a lot, you've got a lot of ideas together, and you think it's all gonna flow out of you perfectly. And then when you sit down to write, nothing comes to you, and it just won't come. So you can recognize that, because you have maybe you have some of these issues when you do make the actual decision to sit down to study. And the same happens to your brain. It just will not concentrate upon studying. So yeah, now we are gonna see an essential method to concentrate, to increase our concentration. You need to meditate. Meditation will be the key to become hypersensitive to sounds and sights of things. So maybe it's something extremely hard to do, but if you achieve to do it, you can probably set out priorities, avoid procrastination, and have a genuine control of your emotions, such as the ones stated before, fear, anxiety, and so forth. Okay, normally these methods are really secondary, but others are exceedingly important, such as meditation. Well, I always recommend you to meditate, but that would be your call, okay, as always. And getting back on track, you do the actual decision to sit down to study, and then you are here studying, but then you twist and fidget, then you notice your picture is like hanging crooked, so you stand up, you go to straighten it up, and then you notice again that it's dusty, so you start like dusting it off, and then the dust is on the floor, so you start vacuuming your room or something like that. So it's like a cycle, so you end up cleaning instead of studying, and that might be because of a lack of concentration. So that's why I always try to recommend you to meditate, because of this matter. And our conscious mind gets us to actually study, but our unconscious mind starts like panicking or telling us you can't do this, you must stop doing this, and so on. Okay, well, in this way you have resistance to study. So probably you are somebody who has a great deal of discipline and motivation. For example, you are easily able to set up, and kind of engage in regular physical exercises or musical practices and all sort of things. But you have known now that this is a really common problem, and it's like you don't like to study school-like. So the whole idea of studying for you doesn't appeal to you. So we can still get over this if you follow my lead, if you follow my footsteps. Okay, so in our current times, it's very easy to study languages. It's not a hard task to do, because we've got everything on the internet, everything. We have all the resources we want. That's why there are plenty of methods that will ease into learning the language, and they are not all like just sitting down and studying, doing like the applied study. There are a lot of other methods where you can focus on the physicality of it or the musicality of it, for example. And that's all. So that's something to keep in mind. And resistance to foreign languages is like different, because it's something that might be legitimate. However, for us, a lot of us who love languages, it's might be, well, we might be able to come up with ideas, good reasons for undertaking the study of foreign languages. And this, well, the essential matter is the world as a whole. The world at large will like reward you somehow, and that's good for you, because it might be that, well, it might be that you have you could have this on your curriculum, for example, your languages, or when it comes to having a better standing, for example, in terms of having worked your brain. Therefore, you will have intellectual things. You will be more intelligent in simple words, okay? And you are proving also that your sheer investment of time and effort and energy is very valuable. Besides, you are very disciplined, and believe it or not, but learning languages will help you in every aspect in our lives. And yeah, you will be more attractive, interesting, and perhaps you will bond new relationships with other people. And yeah, it is not just because of the language, learning the language itself. It's because we are making the effort of doing something extremely hard, and people know it. So on the other hand, I recommend to follow the Stoicism, the philosophical rule to achieve happiness, in simple words, in a different way, just by working on ourselves. So to be a Stoic person doesn't mean you have to be stiff or distant with people, but master the negative emotions to achieve happiness. That's all. To be Stoic as well means to work self-control and self-awareness to achieve a full life, and that's all. So I think everyone can done, well, all of these topics and methods and simply things that I have just told you. Everything is connected. The control of our own being, the creation of our own talent, the Stoicism, meditation, everything is connected, and everything can be done through meditation, through having a daily motivation, and a lot of things that I just told you upon in this video. Okay, so yeah, finally, last but not least, we've got the disadvantages of learning foreign languages. So okay, I would say that we have, for example, our native language, so we dominate it perfectly, but on some level we are bound to know that we are not going to be able to learn another language at a native level, like with a native like accent or something like that. And that's pretty awful to think about that, because, well, that is the main cause of our fear or anxiety towards learning language learning. So just don't think about that. Try to do your things. Try to just keep yourself and do the things because of you, and mind your own business, be positive, and don't give up. That's all. Okay, so I will certainly stop now, and I will make some additional videos talking about some of these themes that just got touched upon in this one. Okay, so take care, guys, and see you next time.